So I don't think I'll get another chance in my life to say this, but it's good to be the warm-up act for Sir Bob Geldof. And when I was in the loo, thinking about that, I actually nearly used the word good to be the foreplay for Sir Bob Geldof, but I thought that's not really appropriate, is it? So, I hope I can inspire you a little bit. I suppose today I want to talk a little bit about my journey, which has included the lovely Mike and very much the lovely Roger Hamilton and many other people in this room, which is lovely to see today, including my husband and my daughter. And the reason I want to share it with you is because this isn't an easy journey. I tweeted a little while ago that building trust online, it sounds like you can come to a conference like this, get all the tips, get to learn it. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it requires you to be quite transparent, and it does require you to have sort of something up there that you know you're aiming for, and somehow you're going to get there. Somehow you understand a vision of a world that you want to improve. And I don't mean that in a fluffy, tree-huggy way. I mean that in a business context as well. And no matter what the barriers are, as an entrepreneur or as somebody working in a large organization, you will get there. Whether you have to circumnavigate many things and make some cock-ups and et cetera, et cetera. And so today I want to talk about how I believe the social world will help you get there. And it starts with you and your mindset and your ability to connect and how you build trust and how you build social credibility. I've been told not to. Right, so let's start off by giving a little bit of context to create a bit of sense of belonging in this room now, because it's an incredible audience here, and it was wonderful. One of the earlier speakers asked who was in the room in terms of startups, entrepreneurs, and corporates. But if we just look at what is the fuel of this economy, there are now 4.6 million sole traders in this country. How unbelievable is that? It's phenomenal, the growth, about 800,000 a year roughly, we're growing. And of course the internet has enabled that. We've become individual people that can frighteningly start a business incredibly fast on Company House, and then have a dream and then start to execute it by sharing that dream in whatever way you can with the people you know. 2.9 million of them are home workers. 95.5% of the UK PLC is under 9 employees, what are called the micro business. So you're amongst friends here, and even if you are also from a corporate, what I found so refreshing as we hit the recession is suddenly corporates realised that their lifeblood was also the sole traders and micro businesses, because if they're not thriving and they're not being loved and cared for and communicated with in the way they need you to communicate with them, they're not going to survive. And so it's really refreshing now that large organisations have realised how important us little worker bees are, and I think that's great and should be celebrated. So if I start off by, I just want to share my story a little bit. I hope it's not too self-indulgent, but it really does anchor me, this. When I was 19 and I'd done 3 years in sixth form, academically I found life hell. And, but I did go through the institution, and I was very conforming with my white socks and my short skirts. I found it very tough, and I decided I wanted to go into working with cerebral palsic children. Anyway, I failed to get into physiotherapy in order to do that, and tripped my way into the IT industry in a gap year sort of way, and started doing telesales for a company. And the first thing I was sent to do was go to Monmouth to the Linda Wood telephone marketing company in a terrifying house, first time really away from my family, to go and learn how to do telemarketing. And I sat in this room with people that were clearly more experienced than me, or they seemed it, clearly had a far more strong desire to do that job than me. And I was provided with scripts. Do you remember telemarketing scripts? And to me, it was like being back in the classroom, being taught how to do something and get a skill, and that's not the way I can learn. I learn through intention and people, not through scripts and books and mechanical things. So went back into the office, terrified, and actually that's where I got my love of lipstick, which anybody will know, I always have a lipstick near me. And because I would sit on the phone, and I'd be told to ring out to a computer dealer. There were about 5,000 of them in the country, and close a sale for Hewlett-Packard or Microsoft or whatever the products were we had in the warehouse at the time. And I would pretend to be on the phone in front of my supervisor and pretend to dial it. And anyway, one day, I think about 5 days later, I did dial it, and this guy called Roland Hewland from Tolworth Data Systems, one day I'll meet him again, answered the phone, and he had a really bad cold. He'd really obviously sounded ill. So I went, oh, hi, my name's Penny Ross, which it was at the time, and I'm really sorry to trouble you because you don't sound very well, and I'm ringing from Bitech Peripherals, and we supply computer dealers with XXXX, but I don't think you sound like you want to be sold to, and that's what my job is. It wasn't on the script, all that shit. And he said, oh, and I said, listen, you don't sound very well. It sounds to me like you should go home, and maybe I'll talk to you another day. And he went, thank you, another way. But I did speak to a buyer, and it was like huge. Anyway, at lunchtime, I went out, and I was in a cafe in Bracknell, this was, and it was like a trader's cafe where all the lorry drivers turned up in a lay-by. And I bought myself a sandwich for lunch, and on the side was a packet of tunes. There was a tunes display. And I thought, oh, poor Roland, he felt shit. I'll pick that up, and I'll put that into a jiffy bag and send that to him. And so I asked my supervisor, would you mind if I use the, what were they called, franking machines, and send this to and she thought, why would you do that? And I said, well, he was a nice bloke and he wasn't feeling very well. She thought I was nuts. And anyway, so I did, and I put a little note in it saying, hope you feel better, and that was it. And about 5 days later, the phone went, and somebody said, it's for you. I thought, is it my mum? And it was actually Roland. And he said, hi, Penny, I got your tunes. And I said, good, are you feeling better? He said, yes. And he said, get your pen and paper out. And he scrolled off all these products that I had not a clue what I was writing down. Hewlett-Packard this, and Microsoft this, and then went and put it through. And it was the biggest order that that company had put through their system for a year. So do you remember that telemarketing world? They picked me up and slid me around around on top of their heads, around the bells went, and I thought, what about scripts? And that's when I realized that forget selling. I can't bear the thought of selling. Is there anybody in the room that feels the same way as me? Who enjoys, no. Put your hand up if you hate selling. Right. It's just horrible. I hate that feeling of going in and thinking I've got to open and close and manipulate and work this out. I hate it. So I've always believed that, you know, it's all about relationships, and it's all about your intention to the person that builds your trust. And to manipulate it in any other way would be wrong to me. And so Thomas and I, in 1998, some of you will know, had this idea of, wouldn't it be amazing to connect business people, particularly sole traders, micro businesses, to one another and help them to be socially connected, but in a business environment. And we formed a company called Academy. And 14 years we spent, till 2012, nurturing a community, tiger by the tail. I can't explain what it was like. 4 years before LinkedIn, 6 years before Facebook, 8 years before Twitter, but with our own money. Not with £330 million startup capital for LinkedIn, 2.3 billion for Facebook, da-da-da-da. And it was an amazing community, and those people in the room, like to put your hands up, those people who were part of the Academy, because I've hopefully hugged each one of you, because each person made Academy what it was. It became a huge community of people, and it spread to 650,000 small businesses across 200 countries, 52 countries actually holding events, 5,000 events across the country. And it was across the world, and it was absolutely driven by Thomas's and my love, desire, and intention towards helping people to become friends. And Thomas wrote a brilliant book called A Friend in Every City, and we believed in it. So that was where our belief grew, about how do we connect business people across the world who have emotional vulnerabilities, who have financial vulnerabilities, who are who they are, not just what they do. And we absolutely loved the journey. Ask our children whether they loved it. That's another subject. But it was terribly turbulent, a classic entrepreneurial story of having it all and then losing it all, losing your home, everything, to keep this beautiful community going. So through that, we obviously were integrating all the amazing things that came along, YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn as it came in, and we wanted to help our members to understand these other social networks, and we got into the digital skills world. And we realized then that going social is extremely hard for business people, because the majority of people have learnt to be transactional in their business environment, suspect, prospect, customer, and they don't know how to be kind, to be unconditionally giving, to be themselves, to be who they are rather than what they do. And you see so many people having their Twitter accounts based on their company logo. And to me, that would be like going into a pub with somebody with their big card in front of their face with their logo on it and handing me their business card, rather than willing to sit down and talk to me about what's important to me at that moment in my life or their life, which might be that my dog's unwell or I'm planning to go on holiday. People don't get how to go social, but some people don't even care. And if we look at this, we have this sort of motivation versus skills issue. And that's with anything, whether you're wanting to learn to drive a car or whatever you want to do, be a better golfer. You've got to be motivated to invest in the skills. And some people still sit in that I don't care bucket. I don't care. I've got along without all this stuff before. And there are still people that believe they can get on without connecting and having a brand online, extraordinary as enough as it is. But then some people do begin and they become enthusiastic, and that's a bit like, I don't know, going out onto a motorway before you've actually had a driving lesson. It's dangerous. And so many people say to me, because one of the things you're going to learn is that I absolutely believe in placing young people into companies. Young people are our fuel of our digital economy. And some people come to me and say, but I'm so worried about young people managing the reputation of my business. And I think, God, have you noticed how you've upped up yourself? Because it's unbelievable how mature senior managers and business owners can screw up their own reputation. And what they do is they screw it up by being transactional and selling and broadcasting and not engaging. So beginning and being enthusiastic without the skills is a real challenge. But then people do start doing it, and at least they may be doing it. So who in the room can say that I'm doing a bit of Facebook, a bit of Twitter? Yeah. Doing it, fantastic, and we can celebrate that, because if I'd asked that question even 2 years ago, a lot less hands would be around. So we are getting there. But we then hit this wall, and the wall of, am I getting any return for all of my effort in doing this, is based on trust, and it's based on 3 factors. First of all, a culture block. Organizations don't understand that this is a culture shift that's happening by social. By a connected world, it is a culture shift, and it's all about the trust going to the individual rather than the company brand. And that as a letting go of control, and wasn't it amazing to listen to Zappos, the lady from Zappos, sorry, I've forgotten your name, that's absolutely appalling of me. Holly, of course. To hear the way she's let go of control of the staff, the way that is so critical to let go, but organizations find it hard to let go and go into this culture. The next block is the leadership. Now, when I joined that business when I was 19, there were posters all around the world that said customer is king, and there was a lion's head. And it was absolutely, I could feel it as I went in that the customer was king. That's what they said, the customer is king. But then when I did my induction through the different departments over a 6-week period, my favorite department was the customer service department, where there were 2 gorgeous ladies who loved the customers. I think they had blue hair, and they were probably my age, but I thought they were ancient. And they loved the customer, but for some reason in the warehouse, the customer was called an arsehole. and salespeople were just thought, oh, you know, the whole attitude in every other department. But the business leader believed that he had a customer service culture because he had a poster and he had 2 people in customer service. And it's the same now about going social. We say we've gone social as organizations because we've got people tweeting. That's rubbish. They're not engaging, and I loved what Roger said, where he said the the CEO has to become the chief engagement officer. Absolutely, because the trust comes from the business leadership, and unless the leader understands the shift of connectivity and the way people are building trust, they won't know how to adapt their products and services and properly digitally transform their organizations. So they have this leadership block, and then the third one is talent and skills. Now, there are predicted to be a shortage of 950,000 digitally talented people across Europe by 2017. Nearly 1 million jobs that won't be filled because we don't have the digital talent. Isn't that unbelievable? So the loss of something like £17 billion revenue is at stake in our country, down to the fact that people haven't got digital skills to exploit it. Whether you're inside a company and it's all the way through your staff, your supply chain, or whether you're a sole trader and you're wanting to find somebody who can do it for you. It's going to be a supply and demand problem like we will not believe when it happens. And so remember, I told you. But if we do overcome those things, then we go into instigating a culture in an organization, a social culture. And it spreads, not just online, it spreads in the way that people connect. We're working with one massive organization, one of the largest technology companies in the world, who are currently considering doing more on Twitter than on their own internal email to communicate. Now that takes a very open, very random and very supportive mindset to how we actually run our businesses and how we as individuals get into this transparency. What have we got to hide anyway? That's what I wonder. Of course, there's confidentialities in some organizations around clients and things, but what have we as individuals got to hide? These people that say, I couldn't let my business contacts see my Facebook. Well, to be quite honest, I don't put naked photos of myself on Facebook, not very often. And so there isn't a lot that I can't share with each and every one of you that I would be frightened of. And maybe it starts to make us consider what is our reputation and who is brand me when we start acting and talking like that. So the next thing is we start integrating a fantastic strategy. And blocks can occur through that strategy as well. And we then have to start looking at how is that strategy going to give us proper ROI. And then we start to build a real huge talent pool. And the final part of that talent pool is that we start create community around us. So Trust Online is all about relationships. It's absolutely about the relationships and having the effort and the interest in building relationships around us. So therefore, it's all about social capital. It's all about how well is my organization, as I as an individual, got people wrapped around me that believe in what I believe in and connect with me in an unjudging way, and I connect with them in an unjudging way. So the birth of social business happened, and it is about being given permission to be you. Your values, your beliefs, one person. And unfortunately, I've got quite a short space of time today. I've just been given a warning, actually, but I've been given a few of those in my life. I'll wait a few minutes. It is about your values and your beliefs. And if you don't know your own values and your own beliefs, and you don't know what is brand you, then it is very difficult to know how to connect that up with you as your company, whether it's a large organization recruiting people or you as your own business. And this is the promise of this connected world. But the promise is also to be a friend. Now, when you're with a friend is open with you. They accept random conversations with you, and they expect you to be supportive and vice versa. So if a friend asked me to meet them in the pub on Friday night, I wouldn't walk in and go, well, I'm not going to talk about this, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to reveal what's gone on in my week this week, good or bad, and I actually know what outcome I want from this. I want to control it. Now, the juxtaposition of being open, random, and supportive is being closed, selective, and controlling. And this is a theory that Thomas wrote about and put on video about 5-6 years ago, which is all about being ORS. And we actually have, you can take online, if you go to leadors.co, you can actually take a test to find out how open, random, and supportive you are in your mindset, and you can run that through the whole organization. And this is what it will come up with. It will give you 8 profiles that will help you to understand that and understand what your own sticking point is around this new social world. I'm just going to flick through because of my warning. It is about being interested in the other person. You cannot survive. I'm mentoring an 18-year-old boy at the moment that's on a Prince Andrew digital entrepreneur program. And he's really nervous about networking. And when I switched it around, I said, you're only going into networking to help the other person rather than to help yourself. His energy shifted completely. He now goes into events comfortable to talk because he can ask questions rather than be the person trying to achieve something. So we have to build trust, show huge interest in the other person, and listen and never stop listening. The online world isn't about broadcast. It is about listening to people in the community you've built around you, the followers that you've got that for some reason have chosen to follow you. Through serendipity, whatever it is, they've decided to follow you. And what an enormous privilege it is to be connected. And it's for life. If you don't upset them, I expect to be connected with some people in this room for the next 40 years, unless I upset them. And I don't know when I'm going to give them value, but at some point I am going to give them value through the connectivity I've got, through the information I share, something will give them value. And I just trust that that will happen. And therefore, I don't lose that connection. And so having followers isn't about ego. Having followers is about knowing that there are people out there that one day you might be able to serve. But you don't have to do it instantly. You've got a lifetime to do it. And this is something that we need to teach our children, any parent in the room. Managing your reputation is for life. So it is the power of community that we are now having the chance to do, build our own communities around us. So Thomas and I were really privileged to have a community of 650,000 people around us. The lessons learnt were enormous. The innovation, the research and development, the ongoing friendships in our life, the social capital we now have. Every single one of us can do that around what we believe in. So you've got to remember that you're in a pub when you're online, chatting, having conversations and not looking for that ROI, and trusting that if you know your intention, if you know what that thing is that you're driving towards, you'll get there because your conversations will lead people towards that place with you. And don't be a salesman. But you've obviously got to know what your voice is online, and a lot of people haven't found that voice. Their voice is what I sell, not what I intend to do for others, what my passion is. And it's much more interesting to understand what your voice is, like the X Factor person that stands up, and they're not there just to be famous and rich. They're there because they want to make your spines tingle. And that's what we need to be able to do. So I'm just going to finish off by quickly giving you a synopsis, just to give you a little bit of context around that. When I created Digital Business Britain, the manifesto, and it's now a not-for-profit organisation helping public sector organisations, councils, etc., execute digital inclusion programmes, that became my higher purpose. How do we help Digital Business Britain? And out of understanding my higher purpose, I then worked with Scredible, which is an organisation that's helping people find their voice and giving them a fantastic app, which is in beta at the moment, that helps people to share better. And my heart beats for what we're doing in Digital Youth Academy. Digital Youth Academy, last year, we placed 350 unemployed, hard-to-reach young people into jobs. And not only did they benefit through their apprenticeship, the business transformed, not just because they had the resource and the talent, but they brought the mindset into their company. And so please remember that our young people are the fuel of this economy. There are qualifications they can take. I'm going to do a plug because I like this part of my life. We have got a little stand out there if you want to hear about how to take on an apprentice or have some free social media training for yourself, because I'm absolutely committed to every single person in this room growing by building your trust online. So thank you very much.